Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Bin. I'm an OTAs designer and a water engineering student based in South Australia. It's my great pleasure to host this event. And thank you for joining us today for what promised to be an inspiring and insightful webinar. Before we begin, please make sure you are muted and during this sharing section, and don't be hesitate to ask questions in the QA session. And we are honored to have Jan Liu as our speaker to share her valuable journey in computer science, program manager, and product manager professional sector in Australia. For those who don't know, Jan not only immigrated successfully to Australia from Taiwan and experienced a plenty of career journey, but also create the biggest online and offline Mandarin speaking community in Australia, which has more than 20,000 people actively share their experience and help with each other every day. This well-known organization is Australian Career Forum. The volunteers in Australian Career Forum organize successful large meetup in every capital city every 3 months. I'm honored to work with Jan for the organization and contribute to 2 successful workshops about the resume and the career development last year. So I'm sure everyone is excited to hear more from Jen. Let's give a warm welcome to Jen Liu.
Thank you, Bing, for the introduction. It's an honor to be here to meet everyone. And before I start, I just kind of want to get to know our audience a little better. So does anyone also graduate from a computer science degree? If you have graduated from a CS degree, can you just like raise your hand or give a thumbs up or something like that in the reaction? Okay, cool. We have one audience. That's good. And let me start by sharing my screen. And also, I'm just wondering what's like everyone else's background. Anyone come from like a design background or other engineering background? If you can type into the chat box, that would be good. Civil engineering. Oh yeah, that's thing. Civil engineering. Yeah. So let me start sharing my presentation here. Yeah. Can everyone see my slide? So I'm Jen, as being introduced. I'm currently a product manager at Webull and the founder of Australia Career Forum, which is a non-profit organization that helps Mandarin-speaking professionals to set a foot in Australia and expand their network. So today I'm here to discuss an interesting topic with everyone. So for anyone who is not really a fan of coding as a CS graduate, or anyone who is wanting to transition to any project, product, or program management career, then I can share some of my insight with you. So before I begin, I want to share a little story about why I think this topic is important and how this all began. So I came to Australia when I was 15, and I studied the last 2 years of high school here. And they had this thing similar to the 学测 in Taiwan, so it's called HSC. And I set for that exam and chose a computer science degree as my university. So to make that decision, I actually had a bit of options. And those were all targeted to be able to immigrate to Australia easily. So that includes accounting, nursing, engineering, education, and computer science. And at that time, I thought, okay, computer science seemed to be pretty cool. And I chose that. So I remember in the first year of my university, the very first lecture, it was Introduction to Programming. So the lecturer showed us a block of code. And then he said something like, if you don't know what this means, that's completely okay, because you all just graduated from high school, you're starting fresh in university, so you are all on the same boat, you're all on the same page, that's fine. So I was quite relieved when I heard that. But then the next moment, I turned my head around and see my neighbor, who's also a first-year student. He was already writing code on the editor, and he's doing his first assignment. And I was like, oh, lecturer, we're not on the same page. So that's the moment I started to think about, oh, okay, maybe some people have somehow had some experiences before they came to uni, but that was fine for me. And then the semester started, we had lectures, tutorials, assignments, and stuff like that. And I started to struggle. So I didn't really know the logic, and I found it very hard to get my head around all these assignments. I didn't fail, but it was a real struggle for me. And a few months later, I met my husband. So at that time, we were just chatting, the students, we chat about our high school. And then he told me, oh, I actually studied software engineering as a subject in high school. And I was shocked. I never heard that was a thing. But then he also made me started to think, okay, maybe some people are talented in this field and maybe I'm not. But then at that time, I had to finish all my subjects because, as some of you may know, if you study overseas, the tuition fee as international students are crazy. So you just can't afford to fail any subject. So I finished my degree, and because of immigration policy, I had to find a job as a developer or something similar to that. So I started my full-time job in the IT industry. But then I struggled again as a consultant at that time. I thought it would be something like I just talk to the customer and I need to build a relationship and I didn't really need any technical skill. But the reality was that it's a technical consultant role. So meaning we had to configure a lot of our products for the customers, and we sometimes do need to write a code. And also we need to learn a lot of things about the IT infrastructure. So including storage, networking, server configuration, stuff like that. And I also struggled at that time. So some of my colleagues who started the same batch as me, they could pass the product certification in 2-3 months, but I had to spend 6 months and non-stop studying and then got my certification. So I started to question, is this the right career for me? But before that, I didn't even know there would be any other options. I thought if you study computer science, for sure you're going to be a developer. And that's when this opportunity kind of emerged, and I grabbed those opportunities and I started to shape my career into different ways. I tried different things and changed many times in my career. And I started to feel like, okay, a direction that is actually suitable for me, but not as a typical computer science graduate. And hence, that's why I'm here to share with you my journey. So continue on from this slide, you see this is my career journey thus far. I started as a graduate at VMware as a graduate consultant. And then there was one time we had a meeting with our project manager. She was like, okay, we need to do A, B, C, D, E. But then I kind of need a second hand to help me to do a few paperwork and documentation and taking minute notes and stuff. And she asked if anyone was interested. At that time, I didn't think much. I just thought, oh, okay, it's project management. It's a topic or like an area I never explored before, and it sounded quite interesting, and I wanted to help because I was struggling with all the technical stuff. Maybe I can try helping this area. So I said, okay. And then a few weeks later, I started to help her with a lot of PM or like project coordination tasks. And because of that, I had to work with a lot of colleagues from other departments. And then there started to have a rumor coming out. People started to ask, are you the project management graduate? And then I feel like, oh, I'm not, but I'm just helping. But my manager heard that and she asked me, oh, Jen, do you want to maybe explore the PM path? So I just say, yes, why not? I wanted to explore different career options. So then it began my project management career. For about a year, I was doing the typical PM stuff, coordinate meetings, take meeting notes, and then coordinate the action items across different teams and chase timesheets and stuff like that. Because it's external customer-facing project, I also had to work with the customer, sometimes travel to the customer sites, get roasted by the customer. So that was pretty much my experience for that year. I kind of get used to it, but then in some parts of me, I feel like it's not really challenging because in project management, all your work is based on a given scope. So you don't really have that creativity part of your work coming in. So I started to question again, is this the right career for me? And fast forward to a few months later, I was just talking to a colleague just randomly, and she said to me, "Oh, my team has an open position for a enablement program manager." And that I asked what enablement means, and she meant training. So for all the technical roles we have, we need to make sure all the technical consultants are up to date with our products. So that was like training all the consultants. And I was quite interested in that, and I applied. So when I applied internally, I realized it's a role that is above my level, actually 2 levels above. But I thought, why not just give it a try? Because I got nothing to lose by just applying. So I went through the entire interview process. It was 5 rounds, and one of the rounds actually fell when I was I had a work trip in Singapore, so I had to wake up at 5 a.m. The other person who had more experiences got the role. And I thought that's fine, right? So I just go back to my routine. And a few months later, one of the interviewers at the time was the VP of the department. He reached out to me, and I was like, did I do something wrong? Why did you come to me? And he said, oh, I actually have a job offer to you, because we need someone to consolidate all the graduate programs across Asia-Pacific. And because you applied for the enablement role last time and I interviewed you, so I knew that you are interested in training that kind of area. So I wanted to offer this job for you. So out of nowhere, he gave me a job offer, and I didn't think much. Again, I was like, sure. I wanted to move out anyway, so I took that role and started to build the graduate program for the department. It was actually one of the best times I had for my career, because I got to really use my creativity to think about different training programs and build things from 0 to 1. And then COVID happened. So we had a lot of plans to actually have the graduate program run in different countries. And my plan was that I would fly to those countries to run those programs. So that's also why I found this role interesting. But because of COVID, everything had to stop, everything turned into online, and my whole plan got scrapped, and I had to build the entire plan again. So in 2020, I spent a lot of time working extra hours, pretty much from Monday to Sunday. I will be working from 9 to 5 and beyond, just because I have to rebuild the entire plan for the program to start. So it was pretty tough. And then at that time, my grandma in Taiwan passed away, and because of the restriction, I couldn't go back to see her. And that's when I was like, okay, now that I kind of know some career options, maybe there's one thing I haven't thought about and I can do potentially. So that's the social media influencer part. So just bring back the memory to a while before I even came to Australia. When I was in Taiwan, I was actually really into history, arts, and literacy, that kind of stuff. So I would write mini kind of creative writing, like novels or poems or something like that. But then because of the immigration plan, I have to switch to computer science to get my permanent residency. So I stopped all that. But in my head, I always had a dream of becoming a journalist. So when COVID hit, all my work started to go around the clock and my grandma passed away, it made me really think about, okay, maybe if there's one thing I will regret in my life if I die right now, that would be I never took any chance to become a journalist for real. So I decided to quit my job, like without any other job aligned. I quit my job. I became a social media influencer, aka YouTuber, for a year. And then I realized it doesn't really feed me. It couldn't generate enough income. So I decided to go back to my original job. But then because I had that journey of trying out different things, I started to get to know a little bit more about what I want in life, which I'll share later. So at that time, I made a decision that I will go back to my original work, but with a goal of getting into product management in the end. And eventually, I realized that. So now I'm a product manager. So I will be sharing a bit more about how I came into that conclusion and the decision. But before that, let me share with you the concept I want to share with everyone today. So, and that concept is called Ikigai. So it's from a Japanese concept by the name. It's actually a concept of finding out what your life mission and your life goal, like your ideal state of life is. So when I quit my job and then before I started to do my YouTube channel, I actually spent a good 3 months, or actually more than 3 months, a good half year, just to try to figure out my life in general. What do I really want in life? And then I found this concept, basically taking what you like, what you're good at, what you get paid for, and what the world needs into this shape, and then try to write all of them down and then find something in the middle for you. So I kind of studied that and I write everything down, and I found kind of the work version of this, and that's how I decide my career. So that's what I have. It's my kind of my own theory. So what you really like may not be what you get paid for. What you get paid for may not be what you're good at. So you're trying to find the balance in those 3 categories. And the 3 categories, when they meet in the middle, that will be what we call the dream job. So you may have a passion in something, and you might be really good at something, and then you may be paid very high salary for another thing. And then there may be something in common with all 3 of them. And that's how you find a dream job. So I kind of use this framework or theory to draft my career plan and coming to the conclusion that I want to be a product manager. For some people, this is actually very simple, like my husband. He started to develop an interest in software engineering when he was in high school, and he studied software engineering in university. And once he graduated, he became a software engineer. So it's like a straight line for him. And he was like, what he liked, what he was good at, what he got paid for, all software engineering. And that's perfect, that's fine, right? But for me, it was like a mess. So I enjoy a lot of things. I enjoy writing, I enjoy education, I enjoy UI design, marketing. But in the IT industry, those things are actually not very high paid in some ways. So disclaimer, in some ways. And what I'm good at, I am really good at a lot of soft skills like cross-functional collaborations, community engagement, and project management stuff. I'm really highly organized. But those things are not 100% what I enjoy. And then the next thing is what in IT industry are considered perhaps higher pay. That will be data analytics, you got sales, you earn commission. In software engineering, there are plenty of job demands out there. There are just a lot of things I had to think about. So I kind of put together this kind of a journey from where I started, and then from who I am now and what I want to go in the future. And I put everything down. And I found that if I want to be earning a high salary and do part of the jobs that I like, but also do part of the jobs that I'm good at, then the thing that meets in the middle currently is product management. So now it leads to like how and why it's product management, right? So because I've done project management, program management in the past, so I kind of know what those two are, and so I started to compare. For career path-wise, if you study civil engineering or anything in the construction industry, then project management is also a pretty common career path in those fields. The career path is very clear. So I did my CAPM certification, did my PMP certification. You go from project coordinator, project manager, senior project manager, project director, and the VP of project management or something like that. It's like a straight line. You see the end, and that's fine for some people. Some people don't really prefer that. They want to be able to create their own path, which is kind of me. If you are in the software industry, they often come with equity, and equity may mean risk, but it also may mean high return. So it's an area that I also consider when I'm thinking about my career path. Like, do I want to be very stable, or do I want to risk it a little bit, but maybe in the future I'll get a return? So that's the second point of consideration. And for program manager, it's even harder. It's more common in large enterprise, sometimes even enterprise that has international exposure. That's when they need program manager. So in terms of the job security, so like me, I actually got redundant in my last role, then it will be actually very hard to get into the next role in this exact same field. Just think about it. If you run a program for a graduate program, how many companies can afford to train graduate and hire graduates in the first place, right? So I found myself kind of putting myself into a really, really narrow string. It's hard to get out. So that's when I started to think maybe program management isn't for me, or particularly program management for onboarding, enablement, graduate program, that kind of programs. They are not really for me because I'm still relatively young. So I want to explore more options and then potentially can get high return. So product management comes into my side. It can have a aspect of shaping my career. It's also high demand in software industry, especially in startups in all company sizes. And the next thing is, how do I get into product management? So for project management and program management, they are not as hard because it doesn't really require you domain knowledge. For project, you need to coordinate projects. So you can really start by a project coordinator role, which doesn't require any prior knowledge of anything, and you can already do that job. Program management, you may need to have some knowledge about a specific domain, but it's also not required. But for product, it's very hard. So I spent a year or even more than a year just to try and get myself the experience of understanding the product management cycle to set my foot in the foundation phase. And I was very lucky. Without the domain knowledge, I got a job in the finance industry, but usually they wouldn't hire someone unless they specifically ask for a junior role. And it's hard in product management to get a junior role anyway, because so many people want to get into this field. So it's very competitive. And in Australia, especially, it's a country where we really look at work experience and really look at the experience that is directly relevant to the job. So it doesn't matter which degree you graduated with. I graduated in computer science, and that doesn't help me anywhere. And that's when I come to mind that, okay, I need some time. So the skill requirements is also quite complex because you need to understand the product, which is the domain. If you are in finance, you need to understand finance product. If you are in, for example, graphic, you need to understand graphic product. So the domain knowledge is the first one. And then you need the soft skills to be able to collaborate with a lot of different teams, because to be able to build a product, you need to think about the engineering part and how do you launch the product, how do you sell it, the sales part and the marketing part, how do you market it, the go-to-market strategy. And after you sell it, or after a user starts to use your product, how do you make sure they're happy? So you need to work with customer service and make sure your users, if they complain about something, then you may do something about it, and you may enhance your product or stuff like that. You also need to make sure your product is compliant. So you need to work with legal or compliance officer to make sure everything you build is legally approved before it goes out. So it's not, I would say product management is not a junior role at all. You really need the experience working in the industry. You need the experience working in specific domain, and then you may be able to get into product management. But it doesn't mean that it's impossible as well. So one story I can share recently, because one of our product managers left, so we needed a backfill. And guess who filled in that role? Is a customer success executive who filled in the product management role. And the reason is that he has been in the company for 2 years, and he proactively collect customer feedback into constructive product enhancement suggestions and share to the product management team. So he understands the customers, he understands the products, and we gave him a chance to become the product manager. And I've been working with him for about 2-3 weeks, and he's really good at what he's doing. So if for anyone who wants to become product manager, my advice would be try to be good at something that you are currently working with, and then maybe try to find a field that you can accumulate the PM core skill experience. Like for me, how I got the experience was because I founded Australia Career Forum, and at the time, we needed an online membership portal. So I spent some time to actually write the requirement down and then pass it to the engineers and then market it. So that was a really complete product management cycle. And that experience got me this job. So yeah, just have a few last slides left. Before I go into that, I just want to a quick disclaimer. All this information I analyzed for the 3 different PM roles are based on my observation in Australia's job market. So if you are in a different country, there may be different aspects you need to think about. Okay, so we talked about a lot of things. We talked about my journey through developer, consultant, PM, and 3 different PMs. And I just want to remind everyone, like, your career is not a straight tunnel for like 10 years. You can't change anything. There may be some paths that are already close to you, but then if you look ahead, there are so many other options out there. So you don't have to think like you have to be locked in because you have been a project management for 3 years or 5 years or even 10 years. It means that you have to be a project management for the next 10 years. There's always a chance that you can make some changes and think about what you want to do, trial and error, and build your own career path. So if you are a computer science graduate, there are so many options out there in the software industry. Not only that, you can be an engineer or PM, you can be a UI designer, business analyst, security engineer, cloud infrastructure engineer, and a lot of opportunities in customer success manager. You can be a consultant or support engineer. Highly recommend for anyone who is interested in transition into a different role, speak to someone who is already in that field and understand from their perspective how they look at their roles, and it may help you to make some decisions. So lastly, if you ask me one piece of advice for anyone in career perspective, I would say there is no rush to get anywhere, because everyone has their own pace in life, right? You can be very fast in getting to somewhere. You can take some time. you can decide that you want to stop here and then do your own things and then start somewhere again. So you don't have to be locked in, as I said many times. Try out different things and just enjoy the journey of exploring and crafting your own career. So that's all for my presentation. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope everyone has a really good success in your career going forward, despite any route that you take. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen, for your enlightening presentation. It's been incredibly informative, especially in the comparison diagram of the three types of PM. And I'm sure our audience has gained a lot from your insightful, especially the computer science students who are interested in product management position. So now we are moving to QA session. This is our chance to ask Jen any questions. So welcome to type your question in the chat box. And I saw Oliver has a question. Would you like to ask Jen yourself?
Hey, hello, Jen. Nice
Hi.
to meet you, and Oliver. Firstly, I would like to thank for you to share your fantastic story and journey in IT and in Australia. I read your articles in Crossing like 换日线 and
Alright.
澳洲职场人. Yeah, I because I heard some of story like previously you want to be a reporter or a journalist. But anyway, because in Australia the IT is much more chance to have the PR opportunity. So you changed your subject, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for your contribution for sharing Australia working experience and interviews. It's very meaningful for us in Taiwan. Some of the Taiwan students, Taiwan people to know more about Australia. So actually, I have two questions. The first question is compare with living or growing in Taiwan and Australia. So what do you think, what is the major reasons that you choose to stay in Sydney since you graduate from the school?
There are many reasons. I think the first one is definitely the weather. So honestly, I have a really bad allergy, and when I came to Australia, I kind of just treated it and so gone. So I really like that. And the second one is the fact that you don't have to be pressured into doing anything. So not sure if anyone can relate if you are in Taiwan. Like for me personally, I have a huge family in Taiwan, and everyone who had some of their opinions or preferences about what I wanted to do. So when I first started to say I want to be a journalist, and pretty much every member in my family went against it. And there are reasons why they say, which are reasonable. Don't get me wrong, it's reasonable. But it just made me feel like I don't have much options. But in Australia, whatever you do, everyone would give you a lot of support. So when I first announced that I was quitting my job to become a full-time YouTuber, I thought a lot of people would say, oh, that's like weird. But in fact, all of my colleagues at VMware were very supportive. They encouraged me to do that because they feel like it's my way to finding out my true passion and what I want to do in life. And that was really good, kind of give me the comfort that I can do whatever, but no one will give me a weird look or judge me. And then the last thing is a work-life balance. I have to say though, I didn't work in Taiwan because I came when I was really young. So all of these, I heard from my Taiwanese friends that a work-life balance sometimes can be not really ideal. So for my current work routine, I work from 9 to 5 and sometimes 10 to 6. But then all the time after that, I can do anything I want to do. So we have a really good work-life balance here.
My current company in Taiwan, we applying a German software, and this software is related to construction management. And actually, the development team is in German, but I don't know why most of the customer service team is in Australia, maybe from Sydney or Melbourne. And I am very interested why does some Western countries they would like to choose Australia to support their customer service.
So I guess I may want to take a step back and then talk about something more broadly. So in Australia, if you look at Asia-Pacific in general, Australia is the only country in the Asia-Pacific that there's like kind of British background. So a lot of the companies, including VMware, when I was working there, some of the departments, their headquarters is actually in Australia. And because of the natural language advantage and the time zone advantage for us compared to some Asian countries, like for us, in Taiwan, we only have 2 hours time difference. But if you are in German, for example, I think the time difference will be like 10 or plus, right? So time difference and language combined, I think could be one of the reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure about your company in particular, but yeah, my observation is like that.
Yeah, but do you know about the software engineering? Do you think Australia software engineering education or training maybe is better than other countries?
It's very hard for me to say that because I didn't study anywhere else. But from my experience in Australia, our education for bachelor's degree, software engineering is actually quite hard. And I think the education quality is quite high. So that is one of the considerations as well. And we have some well-known companies like Canva and Atlassian in Australia.
Thanks, Jen, for the great response. And does anyone has question for Jen? Welcome to raise your hand. And I have a question there from my side. The question is about you have valuable experience on the differences with Australian workplace and Taiwanese culture. So could you share with us some stories about how to advocate ourselves and strive for our right in Australian workplace?
That's a good question. Thanks for asking. So yeah, maybe I can share an interesting story from my side as well. So when I first entered the industry, I was considered that kind of stereotype you think as a shy Asian girl compared to my colleagues. And that was actually one of the hardest lessons I learned. So a year after we joined, 2 of my colleagues got promoted, actually promoted 2 levels. And I didn't get any promotion and just a basic salary rise at that time. And I didn't know what to do, and I just cried. But after a while, I knew that it was because they actually proactively spoke to their managers about their career progression and asked for the promotion. So I didn't say anything. I just sit there, did my job, and then hope for the best. And that mechanism doesn't work in Australia. So you really have to plan ahead and talk to other people about what you want and what you deserve. So things like I did after that in 2022 to 2023, I got promotion twice. And that was because I started to build a plan, actually a half-year plan. When I rejoined the company, the first one-on-one meeting with my VP was I built a plan for my current role. And I say, this is my levels, like level 3, for example, and this is level 4. And then these are the things that I'm doing that's already level 4. These are the things I'm doing that level 3. So can you give me some opportunities to pursue the level 4 job scope? And if I accomplish that, I would be asking for a promotion. And in that half-year time, I did everything I could. And before the promotion, the salary review season, I had my one-on-one with my manager again, and I show him that chart again, and I say, okay, I ticked all the boxes, and these are my results, and I'm asking for a promotion. And at the end, I did get the promotion I wanted, and it really made me feel like, okay, if you want something, you're gonna say it. Don't be shy, and make sure it is not something like you just do it without everyone else knowing that you are doing it. So I think that's very important in Australia.
Thank you. I asked this question is because I saw your post on Threads, and it's really, really impressive, especially it's mentioned about the noising keeps get candy, and which is important for us from Taiwan. It comes with a really practical question. It's about, do you think there is a drawback or some negative potential reasons if we do some proactive or a bit aggressive action in the workplace?
What kind of drawbacks are you thinking?
It's a bit like to shining or too proactive or be a bit aggressive, and someone will hate us or we will not be welcome.
I don't think that is the case in Australia. I think everyone kind of know that if you want to shine, you have to speak out loud. So yeah, I never really experienced that kind of issue. But even if you do get someone who kind of got salty at you because you got a promotion, then that's fine. That's their own problem. You don't have to care about what they think.
Okay, so you will encourage us just be brave to show our strength in the workplace.
Yeah, I would say that because if I think that's probably the Asian and the Western culture is a bit different. Like in Asia, we say like 以和为贵, like we want to make everyone's like peaceful, collaborative, and stuff like that. But in Western cultures, it's like really individually stand out. They really care about like who you are, what you do. And I think that culture is a bit different. And it also means that it is okay to stand out.
Thank you. Thanks for the response. And does anyone has other questions in the practical situation? Does a diverse project management position in Australia require the students to graduate from background in project management?
Product management is not a entry-level job, but for project management, I think you can kind of get in by entering the industry as a project coordinator without having the degree. But of course, if you have the relevant background, that will be you already have the fundamental knowledge under your belt, so it may be a bit easier. But that was to apply for junior positions. If you want to apply for mid-level or senior, then those wouldn't apply.
Thank you. And you mentioned about you got the opportunity to let the leaders see your characteristics or personality.
Oh, you mean how I got the job offer? When I interviewed for the role, which I didn't get. The last round of interview was from the VP of that department. And at that interview, I continuously showcased how I cared about enablement. And not just by saying that, I actually provided him the onboarding document that I wrote for my team. So no one did it before. I just wanted to write an onboarding document because I feel like the onboarding experience was terrible at that time. And we have a new team member that's about to onboard. So I wrote that document for him. But then I used that to prove that I am really interested in that area. And then I did have some outputs that I can share. Okay. So I think that was definitely one of the deciding factors.
Hi, admin.
Thanks, thanks, Jen.
Hi.
It's very impressive. The presentation was presented by a people speaker under 30. My question is, what's the benefit you can share with us? Because many people, they may come to foreign overseas to study postgraduate or start from the university, but start from high school. Can you tell us what's the benefit you can see from this?
Yeah, that's another really good question, because I sometimes got asked on Facebook. Some parents will ask me, like, would that be good to send their children to Australia earlier or later? I personally think the first, one of the most important thing is that you get to fit into the Australian culture earlier. So one of the hidden things that not many people talk about is if you come here in high school, that means you have experienced the same education systems as any local has also experienced. So that translates into the workplace is that when you are doing small talks with your colleagues, then you have a lot more things in common to share. So sometimes what I found, people in ACF, our community, would ask me is like, I have, say, a coffee chat with my colleague. And then we sometimes feel like we stuck somewhere because we don't have enough in common. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is when you become younger, your ability to adapt to either cultural difference or language itself will be easier than, say, when you come after postgraduate. And then the third thing is the network, because you come early enough, you meet people, like local people, and they may translate into professional network in the future that's wider than compared to you coming postgrad, and most of your classmates are also international students, then that's a bit different as well.
It's about the ending now, if no one has other questions. So I will say thank you, Jen, for your informative presentation and insightful answer. We are truly grateful for the time and expertise you have shared with us today. We also want to extend our heartfelt thanks to everyone who joined us and contribute with your thoughtful question. Your participation made this section special. If you have another further question or would like to connect, please feel free to reach out to us on the LinkedIn. So we hope you found today's webinar is valuable. Thank you once again for your attending and have a wonderful weekend.